Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of My Black is Transnational. And I have on here today one of my good friends. We go way, way back on the show. But, and matter of fact, for those who are real OGs of My Black is Transnational, this is nobody is really new to the show, right? This is another returning guest. If you listen to the Growing Up Immigrant series that we did in season 2, I believe. Marilyn was on the show back then, but she's back now because the price went up. Price is up, y'all. Price is up. The price went up. So I got to bring my sis back individually. We not doing no team, no group chat, none. We're going straight up because the price went up and we got to talk about it. But no, I have on here Miss Marilyn Adibu, who is going to talk just about everything her transnational experience is going on and her business that is on the up and up, representing Ghana, right? Another, fellow transnational. So yeah, my sis is here and I'm going to pass it on to you. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I am truly happy to be back. And thank you once again for inviting me back on this platform. I'm super happy.
Yeah. No, it's good to have you back. I was very excited to be able to get you on because I really want to talk not just, of course, about your experience as a Ghanaian-American growing up here in Chicago, but also just about everything that you've gone through growing up as a professional in health and how that's transitioned into what you're doing with your own entrepreneurship and everything that you've kind of grown into and continue to grow. So we're gonna talk about all of that throughout the course of this conversation. But first things first, I always allow my guests to just take a couple minutes to just talk to the audience about who they are, where you're representing, and anything interesting about you that you'd like to share.
Okay. No, once again, thank you so much for having me. Just a little bit background about myself. I am a Ghanaian American, proud. I was born here in the US, but of course, we have had talks about how it's been so hard, still living with those traditional customs at home and still trying to have all of the African/American cuisine, learning both ways, being able to actually live in Uptown. So I actually started out in Uptown. A lot of people don't know that. And that has transitioned into me living from there to the South suburbs. And then that's when I had the opportunity to go to one of the best schools in the world, which is the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And then, of course, continue on with my life. So
yeah. Now, first of all, we gotta take it back. You said Uptown. Where Uptown we talking about?
Oh, we're talking about North Side. We are talking about like Clarendon, Twin Towers. We're talking about.
No, that's Twin Towers. Twin Towers. Oh yes, okay.
Twin Towers across the street. We have,
yes, the park. Yeah. Oh, I
the
know.
park.
Clarendon.
Yep.
I know Clarendon very well. I used to walk there all the time. I was right there. I don't know if your memory goes back, but we lived in Uptown. But because I always consider Uptown like Plymouth Rock for a lot of African immigrants.
The African Central.
That is where we stopped first. That is like our first primary point of resettlement, and then we find our secondary locations, which is either A, Schaumburg, B, South Side, C, South Suburbs, right? Like you start to spread. But yeah, no. So we grew up. I grew up in. I don't know if you know what a Boys and Girls Club is on Lawrence.
I know exactly where it is.
I was right. I was the building right across the street. Right across this.
Oh my God!
Right across from Boys and Girls Club. That's where we live. We used to play football on the platform. We used to play football and Johnny Come Across and all those little games on the platform of the Boys and Girls Club. So that's crazy how it's all connected. But yeah. So I mean, we're not gonna talk too deeply about your upbringing because for those who have heard it, can always go back and listen to the Grown Up Immigrant. So we won't unpack it too deeply, but I do want to just talk a little bit about, what, especially as a young adult and trying to find your way and trying to navigate as, a daughter of African immigrants. And what were the challenges? What were some of the things that, what were some of the benefits in terms of your ability to start to know who you are and your culture and how you try to navigate both worlds?
That's a really good question. I would have to say, to be honest, I was always driven by my sisters.
Mm.
Um, but let's start with the parents first.
Okay.
The parents, honestly, the parents, my mom and my dad, we grew up very strict. We had very strict parents, so there was no question in mind that we had to excel. That it was always a militant
Mm,
back and forth type of conversation. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
mm,
Everybody was known as an aunt or an uncle. It was always that respect, and that respect also translated into making sure that we had good grades, making sure that we stayed on top of everything. It was tough because they expected you to learn how to cook, clean, and then also, of course, make sure that you're good with your grades. So the parents really, really made sure that they set the foundation in all avenues.
mhm.
I may have not respected it as much because I think they capitalized a lot on making sure that we did what we were supposed to do. Not that I agree with everything that they did, but it was understandable.
Mm,
Um, I had the opportunity, of course, learning both the African side because we had a lot of African friends. So we were able to kind of have that unspoken dialogue. And sometimes we didn't even have to say anything, we just knew.
yeah.
So being able to have that type of, how can I say this, that type of camaraderie, that type of support
Mhm,
was good. I would also have to say that I have a good sense of, since I was at or on the North Side, I was able to have a really, really good, diverse group of friends. So I didn't just have African friends, but I also had African American friends. I also had a lot of Latin friends too.
mm,
So I love Mexican food. I love Puerto Rican food. We were in bilingual classes, so I had to learn the anthem, or not the anthem, what the Pledge of Allegiance.
yeah,
The
yeah,
Pledge of Allegiance in English and in Spanish.
mm,
So we got a very nice taste of what it meant to really understand culture.
mhm.
So I would have to say that. But I'm hoping I answered most of the
Oh,
question.
no, you did. Thank you so much. And so, so then, okay, I'm even just going into that a little bit. When was the first time you realized that you weren't just American, that you were different from your African American friends or other cultural groups that you kind of hung out with?
I would have to say the first time was when my name was questioned,
Mm,
as well as the type of foods that we had to bring. I think they had a time where everyone had to have a potluck and they had to bring food. And they were like, "What's that? I don't know what that is. I'm not going to eat that." And to us, that was normal. But for them, it was too much. The fish smell was just too much. The heavy spices was just too much. Somebody was choking, or they just couldn't breathe. So it's like, oh my gosh, now how come you don't know about fufu, and why don't you know about, all of
mhm,
these really good delicacies? But that's when I noticed, I said, okay, I might be different. And my name. So of course everyone knows me as Marilyn, but my middle name is Ya Asiadua. And then of course my last name is pronounced like Edibu, but of course the American way, Adibu, is the way that a lot of people may know it. So a lot of people were questioning that as well. Why is your name like that? I don't understand why, where does that come from? They used to butcher the last name. They used to laugh at it all the time. They used to laugh at our skin and the braids, even the braids. They didn't understand why we had braids in our hair. So that's when I really noticed that, okay, we are different. We're not we're not exactly the same as I thought we were, but that's where it kind of landed that, okay, I'm different.
yeah, and I find it interesting when I have these conversations with those who were born here, because I always when I explain to people my experience, I always identify as a 1.5er because I came here at a young age. So when I was 8 when I immigrated and we were up north and uptown. But I was always interesting because for me, I knew I was Nigerian, so I already knew I was different. I knew that I was from somewhere else. So my assimilation to the culture was more about just me, not necessarily appeasing, but me just blending in and not necessarily causing no trouble, right? But when I talk to people like you, who I grew, we're in the same generation, same age. You all were born here. You all were told you all are this and not that. right? And then you experience it yourself just based off your exposure to different and people's responses and reactions to things that you consider the norm based off your your household and your standard your cultural practices. And so it's always fascinating to see that it's like, man, this thing happened and this is the moment, right? Or it might I had a conversation, my parents told me like, you're not them. This is not how we do. We're African and you're not, and those things are always very interesting because those are moments that you just never forget. Like,
Which is true.
you never
Which is
forget.
true. And I even vividly remember back in the day, my parents were working all the time. So
Mhm.
the fastest, quickest thing was to make, fried plantains.
Yes.
And we would fry them all the time. And literally, a couple of my friends were there and we tried to offer it to them. We're like, it's really, really good. Fried, they would call it fried bananas. We told them it was called fried plantains.
Fried
We don't
banana.
want the fried bananas. Oh my gosh. And that's when I started to say, okay, they
Yeah.
don't eat the same thing that we eat. They said no, thank you. They don't want to try the food. Okay, okay. Something's not right about that. Why don't you want to eat? We ate at your house, so why didn't you eat this at our
Mhm.
house? So
Yeah.
I think
But
that's when I knew it was different.
man, like what is it? We've kind of gone through a shift, and I think this is a recurring theme that most listeners of this show will kind of know is that over the years, I think now as we are in our 30s, late 20s, whatever. But our generation, we went through that transition where, by the time we were in college, and I want to know what high school and college was like, and just briefly, but we went through that
Okay.
change, right? Where things you start to see that at first we were very embarrassed about our African identities. And then when we got to like college, it's like, oh no, we found a space, ACA for us, right? At U of I. ACA was a space where we were able to kind of show out and flaunt our African identities, at least and commiserate in some spaces with other, like, like you said, some things didn't have to be said. We just kind of knew, right? And then, the idea of when everybody started to catch on and being African started to be cool again. And we were like, oh, for real? Like, I don't know if that was like that for you, but it was like, man, once the Azonto movement and everything, and it was like, it's cool to be African now. And everybody was like, we was like, what? Like, oh, for now y'all want to jump on this when we've been
I
talking?
know.
Yeah.
I know. I know.
So, but okay, so tell me, what high school, college, like, was that like a similar experience for you where it was like, man, you still were kind of, blending in and not necessarily trying to show it, or what was it like?
High school was a little bit tough for me as well. I was also known as the quiet girl, the quiet African girl that never really said too much, maybe has a slight attitude here and there. You asked, some
Mhm.
people, I was known as Florence's little sister. I didn't have a real identity because my sister had more of a personality than I did.
What?
She
Wait a
is
minute.
yes,
No, G, are you serious? You were the
yes.
quiet one?
I am the quiet one. I still am, but yeah, it was a struggle to get two words out of me. Yes, I would speak here and there, but Florence, my older sister, was the life of the party. Everybody knew who Florence, oh my gosh, Florence sister type of situation. So it was always Florence's little sister in high school. So that's how I was identified. High school was interesting because I was very, very quiet. People knew that I was African. Sometimes they may ask certain questions, sometimes they may leave me alone. Sometimes they may have questions, but they just didn't understand. They didn't understand some of the culture, how it was, why we have the names that we do, why we have certain things, that are there. There were times where I remember when I got an award and I was going to get an award. And my mom came there, and we call it like the duku
Like,
or the gile,
yeah,
and
yeah,
she
yeah.
came in, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Well, what's going on here? Who's that?" So it was kind of like, how do you make them understand something that they've never been exposed to? So it was difficult. I would have to say I had a nice balance of both, African American friends as well as a diverse group that were, Puerto Rican, Mexican, white, etc., but mainly black. And it was difficult. It was difficult a little bit to be myself. and to really bring people over to the house, because
Yeah.
if you bring people over to the house, they better be able to speak. They better be able to say,
Mhm.
"Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Adibu." If they offer you something to eat or drink, you better take it. If they're speaking to you, you better speak back. Otherwise, my dad is one of those that will put you on blast. He does not
Mhm.
care. He wants everybody to know that, hey, when you walk into this house, it has to go like this. Just make sure that you tell your friends, hey, my dad just asked you a question. He's really not yelling at you. That's how he truly speaks. I promise you, he's not yelling at you. Don't go back and tell your parents that, my dad was yelling. My dad really wasn't yelling. That's how he speaks.
Oh,
So
wow.
very, but they did what they were supposed to do. I mean, anybody that came over the house, they took them as one of their own. They made sure that they took care of them, but they
Yeah.
took that role of, if that's who Marilyn and Florence and Vicky are bringing to the house, we're going to treat them literally like
Right.
they're one of ours.
Yeah.
So it was intense, to say the least. And I had to be very, very selective of who I brought to the home. Otherwise, you better be ready. I mean, my sister would coach all of her friends. Like I said, my sister was very, very active. She would have to coach every last one of them to make sure that they came correct.
Yeah.
So
That selectivity is a real thing. Like that
yes.
was me too. I had to be very selective in the people that I was able to come to the house. But it's very interesting the parallel lives we live, because that idea, and I was laughing as you were saying it, because it's like, no, they're not yelling at you, right? And you know what though, that's something, just again, just keeping it a buck. That is something that from my own like personal life, and even me as an young African dad-ish, like being someone that's married to an African American, and when we are, combining cultures and experiences
Mhm.
in our shared lives, that was something that my wife and I had to kind of, come to an understanding that is like, my parents are just loud and animated, and so am I, right? Especially when it comes to being parental, we're not necessarily
Yes.
yelling, but we're intense in our sternness, and so it comes off. So we're a little bit more amplified, is the word I'll probably say in terms of our tone, but we're not
Yes.
yelling, because we can really, if you want to hear yelling, there's yelling that you don't know what
Yes.
that, right?
There are
And so
levels.
there are levels to this G. And so like that was something that so as you're saying it, I'm thinking about like that in terms of how it can be perceived, right? Or even how it's translated when you're having those conversations with an African parent and you're visiting their household and you're just like, oh, why they talk like that? Like they yelling, like
Yes.
what's going on? And it could be misinterpreted as something that's more aggressive than it is,
Yes.
than it really is. So that is yeah, that's truth to that's truth to power right there, man.
This
Um
is true.
man, yeah. So I think, just moving forward though, um so talk about college, right? Like, so what was college like? Was it different or no? Same thing.
College was a breath of fresh air because I really felt like I started becoming. I was still very much shy with a little bit of attitude. Just a little bit. But I think that's where I said, okay, we're going to try something new. I'm going to be on my own. I get to start fresh. I get to start new. And my cousin, so I have cousins on top of cousins that have came and gone to, University of Illinois. And a lot of them said, you have to join ACA. You have to join ACA. And I'm like, what's that? Oh, it's an African organization. You'll find people just like you. Just go, just go. And of course, I was scared to go. But as soon as I went to the first meeting, I said, okay, this is where I'm going to be. This is where I can feel like I can start to become myself. People understand. We can have open conversations. They have potlucks that I have understandings of what the foods
Mhm.
are. This is where I need to be. So it really, really changed my perspective of making us look good. We had a group just like everyone else had a group. They had the Native American house. They had, they called it the Black house.
Mhm.
So, loved it there as well too. But it
Yeah.
was nothing like, okay, we have something for ourselves too, and now we get to showcase. I always say showcase how we have always wanted to be, and people just loved us. Like I just love the fact that everybody was just different, but it was just good. Everybody looked out for each other. Everything that was taught at home was brought here and more. It was
Yeah.
elevated. People looked out for each other. People was making food. And, sometimes we didn't think that food, something as easy as food making, my parents had us cutting onions at like the age of 4.
Mm-hmm.
But, and by the time we were finished in high school, we at least knew how to make at least 3 or 4 dishes on our own.
Yeah.
Didn't understand it, didn't think that that would come in handy. But now we have 4 or 5 people now making food, at the place, making meat pies, and they're
Yeah.
going downstairs and making food, and they're just not making food for themselves, they're making food for everybody.
Yeah.
So it was just really, really nice to just see that and have something where we could call our own, and then from there just share it for everybody to see. But I think I did a good job as far as just at least trying to bring a lot of my friends into, tap into that culture. And I think it took them a long time. They always knew that I was African, but I feel like they knew me, but they
Mm.
didn't know me,
Mm.
and I wish that I would have been able to give them that chance to really get to know me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the only thing, but I'm glad for ACA as well as University of Illinois to have brought it a complete 180, a complete, turn for me, where I said, okay, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
They've taught me a lot. I am now feeling like I am cultured, that they've brought all of these people here that I can relate to.
Yeah.
So it opened my eyes. It opened my eyes a lot. Even going down to the sushi bar, you meet, a lot of, different Asians, so it was good. It was good.
Yeah. Yo, I mean, as you're talking about it, I'm thinking about and reflecting back on my time and just the community, right? We had a very strong community that was, that was facilitated, by ACA and our participation there. All right. So like grad, you do the college thing in grad school. Now you are a full-blown professional out there in the world, right? Doing your thing, consulting, right? And we talk about the background. Your background is in public and community health, right? And you're in health admin, and so you're doing some consulting. And so what is that experience like? What is it like? And then we'll talk about your business as an entrepreneur and what you got going on there and what motivated that. But I kind of want to know about like how you go about your day-to-day as a Black woman navigating that world, but as an African internally, is your upbringing, how does that influence your navigation as a professional?
Oh, really good question. So where to even begin? So I finished both my bachelor's and master's at the University of Illinois. Like anybody else, we were all looking for a job. I made the decision. A lot of my friends went back home, or they decided to start school straight after, receiving their bachelor's. I decided that I wanted to stay. After staying and doing my graduate school, a lot of people were stating, maybe you should stay for your PhD. We will help you get your doctorate. And I said, you know what? 7 years or plus being here on the campus, I need to get out. So I
Yeah.
made that decision finally, and I was able to secure a summer internship at one of the hospitals. So I always knew that I wanted to do health administration, and I didn't know how that would look. I did know for a fact that I still had to get the exposure and the experience. So I was able to secure a job in Epic, and literally, I remember the conversation. I believe his name was Dr. Nataro, and
Yeah.
he just kept talking about like, hey, you should look into this, you should look into this, and you should look into Epic. And at the time, I didn't know what Epic or any of what he was talking about was all about. And so I did a few, research opportunities in regards to researching what it was, because healthcare is so broad. You can literally get into anything. And when the opportunity presented itself for me to go out of state, I literally packed up everything in one car and I left. I
Mm.
left Illinois. I said, you know what, this is new for me. I'm scared. I'm very nervous. I think I broke down. I pulled to the side and I said, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm literally on my own, and I'm moving away. My parents definitely were proud of that, but my parents are always the ones to give speeches. So every time you have a graduation, every time you have prom, every time you have something going on, they are going to speak. They said, sit down and you're going to hear this. And for some reason, out of all of the speeches, when I graduated from grad school, we had a whole lot of people there and my friends, and they sat us down and they said, one thing that I vividly remember that my dad said was, you think you're free. So you want to be free. That's what he said. You want to be free. Oh, so you think that you're leaving us and you think you're good to go.
Oh God.
Okay, so yeah, you're free. Now you're free, but now you're really not free. And let me tell you. So he started discussing and talking about how you need to make sure your credit is well. Everything about what you're doing now is going to be based off of X, Y, and Z. So he really, really spoke about real life. Like, you think you're out here, you're really going to get a nice dose of what that is and what that entails. But he's like, you're really not free in America. And it was one of the most raw conversations that I still remember up until today, and that is what has carried me into what I'm doing today. And that's why I think I'm so responsible. I think that's why I take a lot of things seriously. I make sure that all my credit is well. I make sure that, I have all of my paperwork together. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me going, to be honest. But yeah, so that translated to me going into Pennsylvania. And I really, really want to get into healthcare leadership. I was able to secure the healthcare IT, which is an Epic. We are working with one of the largest healthcare electronic medical records in the system, in the nation, I guess you can say. We are here domestically. We are also international. We had the opportunity to train a lot of the staff and providers on how to use the system, and it ranges, which we love. You can be an analyst, you can be a program or a project manager, you are able to travel and become a consultant. So I decided to take the consultant route, and honestly, because we did not get to travel a lot as being an African, because my parents were very strict and they didn't let us go anywhere. So to me, a lot of people are just like, wow, you like to travel a lot like that? And I said, yes, because one, it's a peace of mind. I get to, feel like I am making my own decisions. I'm independent because they felt like they always make decisions for me. Two, and I was never able to experience being out and about and doing my own thing and calling the shots and being out and just living free but responsible, but living free. And that's where I find my joy. So I enjoy doing the consulting, at least as of right now. So yeah.
Yeah. And so, speaking of travel, you mentioned your parents. Did y'all ever growing up get to go to Ghana and go back and visit? Because I'm curious as to what that was like for you. And this is because I code switch, right, in terms of accent and all that. But like some people, right? And so, most Africans, we were raised in a way where our English usually is supposed to be that of like the Queens and proper. But so I wonder though, but that tends to blow back on us when we go back home, where we find ourselves not real or you not, right? So I want to know from your perspective what that is like when going back, if you've gone back, if you plan to go back, what that looks like in terms of just your transnational travel.
So that is a really good question. So in short, my parents actually did not have us go back for a very long time for whatever reason. I think maybe it's because they didn't want us to go or whatever. They never explained to us. And I don't think it was a thing for us to really go back. So, my parents, of course, would always go back and forth. And at the time, they were really trying to build their home back in Ghana so that we would have something to come back home to, which that's a whole nother conversation, how to get land, who's taking your land, who has to oversee and look for the land. So that was a whole project in its own. And just being back there, we would always ask them questions, and they were just like, "Yeah, we really love there. It's home, but it's definitely different than what you see here." And we never used to understand our parents. And when I say that, my mom comes from a royal background, so she has lived a certain lifestyle. My dad has a little bit of, a path where he lived a little bit more of a harder lifestyle, as I would say. So I would say best of both worlds. I've been able to see both. Um, so they both had different rules, and we never understood why we were doing what we were doing, why they're having us wake up every day at 7 o'clock a.m. and why we're washing dishes and why we're doing all of these things this certain way, or why we're serving people with trays
Mhm.
and real glasses and whatnot, and shaking people, shaking people's hand, with your right hand, and you'll get, you will get chastised in a way in which you
No
won't
left,
forget
no
if you
left, no left hand.
no
Mm-mm.
left hand of anything. But we know people used to joke around and say, "You guys have gates and wires." My parents started to try to put these gates, and we just never understood why until we went back home. So they never really answered the question why we never went back home when we were like in high school and whatnot. But starting to get into college, we started to go back home. When we got home, we were able to see a lot of our cousins. Believe it or not, a lot of our cousins still live back in Ghana, and they look at us as we are, President Joe Biden. They
There you go.
think fresh off the plane, we know
Mhm.
everything. They down to us knowing English, and
Nice.
it was yeah, they would definitely get on us. Sometimes I would speak the language, sometimes I wouldn't, because I understand it, but I can't speak it fully. So sometimes they'll be like, "No, you are speaking, the tree, you're speaking the language here." So we're like, "Okay." Florence understands it, she speaks it, she's okay. My other sister, she was actually born there, so she understands it. Um, it's different. It's definitely a different type of living.
Mhm.
It's hot every day. You can't complain that much. There are people coming over, and you're having to say, "Hello, auntie," "Hello, uncle." Everybody's your aunt, everybody's your uncle.
Mhm.
So it's more, the pressure is more there, especially I think being a woman there. They want to make sure that you have everything that you need, making sure that you take care of, everybody, including, grooming. I always say, for some reason, grooming you to become the best, woman or wife or whatever you may want to call it. So they would get back on us, and they would make sure that we don't ever forget our roots. They
Mm.
say, "Don't forget your roots. Don't forget us. Make
Mhm.
sure that you always come back. Make sure that you learn the language, you learn everything, you learn the culture. Don't lose it. Don't let it die." So
Mm.
that's something they have constantly got on us about. And I'm going to make it my mission to definitely go back every 2 years, every year if I can, if I get lucky, because you don't want to lose that. That's home.
Mm.
When I went back there even earlier this year, it's home. So yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I love that. I really do love that, the roots, right? And not forgetting home and what it means to you. Um, Even after so many years being away. And, one of the big things about our culture is weddings, engagements and all that. That we're very big on traditional weddings and all that. But I want you to talk about your business. Like I said, the price went up.
The
So,
price went up.
the price went up, my G, and so we gotta talk about how is the stock is going up for you, G, and everything that's going on with your aspirations and the inspiration for your business, Maya. And I remember us having this conversation, right? And I remember, you was up in the middle of St. Lawrence, you was on the border of Canada and you was on the border of Canada and upstate New York. And we were talking about this. You like, bro, I don't know. You got me in the middle of somewhere upstate New York. But with your traveling, and I just remember us having this really, really cool conversation about, what you were aspiring to do with for bridesmaids and things of that nature. And to kind of see what it's evolved to has been amazing. But I want you to kind of share how it started and where it is and where it's going.
really good questions. Oh my gosh. How it started, I was living in Pennsylvania at the time. And when I was in Pennsylvania, I was still going through my work. And I said, you know what, this is really good, but I still need more. I need something for myself. I need something to call my own. So, luckily, I had some really, really good friends that were out there. They always looked out for me. And one group in particular, a couple of friends in particular, I actually met their mom in the mall. At the time, I once again needed something else to do other than my job. So I picked up a second job at the mall and I wanted to look good in my clothes. So I actually
Mhm,
started working at the Limited. And when I was working at the Limited, I came across two beautiful women and they were speaking Tree. So they were speaking in our language. And I literally picked up on it and was speaking to them too. And they were like, oh my gosh. And they were just looking at me and they were like, you know what? Do you live around here? And I'm like, yes, I've been here for over a year. I need some more friends. And they were just like, you know what? We got you. Let's go ahead and exchange, information. We'll go ahead and give that and I'll pass it along to my daughters and they'll go ahead and give you a phone call.
mhm,
And they did. They actually did exactly what they were supposed to. Shout out to my friends, Candace and Okoya, and that's where our friendship had blossomed. And one day, they had invited me because I couldn't go back home to Thanksgiving. And I said, okay, of course, I'm there. And as I'm walking in there, she had just gotten proposed. One of the daughters had just gotten proposed. And I was just so happy. And she's like, this wedding is happening, blah, blah, blah. And I need you to be there. And I'm like, okay, cool. So, she's also Ghanaian too. Let me put it out there as well. So she's also Ghanaian as well. And as she was finishing up, I knew that I was going to be at least, a part of the guest of the wedding. But being her friend and becoming her friend and whatnot, of course, you would start to see, certain things unravel. I was always in the capacity of being a guest, but
mhm,
never being asked certain questions or what I felt about, how we go ahead and do X, Y, and Z, or we're researching and we're looking at venues and whatnot. So
mhm,
I started to learn a little bit more than just being a guest at someone's place. So what really came to mind was when I was looking one day for her gift, a bridal gift. And as I was looking for the bridal gift, for me personally, it was so difficult to even find a bridal robe.
mm,
So I had found myself going to Spencer's, and I think even at that time, we were also helping to plan for her bridal shower. And with the bridal shower, I mean, we had to look for specific areas. We had to look at Spencer's. We were looking at Macy's. We were looking at J.C. Penney. We were looking at this other location. And then finally, when I was able to find a bridal robe at maybe it was J.C. Penney or Macy's, they didn't even have a wide variety
wow,
of bridal of anything. So I had to take, and it still looked cute, by the way. It still looked really gorgeous, but I just could not believe that there was nothing for me to give, or it was so difficult. Or if I wanted to grab five things, I had to go to five different locations to
mm,
get it. Let alone once we were going through the process, or at least for myself personally, I can speak for myself. I said, wow, I didn't know you were supposed to do this or this or this, or who was responsible for this and that.
right,
I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh. And I just said, you know what? Okay. This is something that I think I really, really want to tap into, because I knew for a fact that I love love. I love unity. I love being a part of it. I love seeing how other cultures do it. So even though I'm African and I am of, African descent and I'm from Ghana, we still have tribes.
mhm,
So I'm from one tribe, actually two tribes, and my friend was also from another tribe. So we saw some similarities of some things that she was doing and some things that were different, which was so beautiful to me. So I loved, being there, making sure that they're okay, making sure the bridal party had what they had, and just wanting to be a part of that moment. So that's where my business, I really wanted to tap into the right industry, which was the bridal industry. And I started out actually with the wedding planners. So the wedding planners, which you can find on Amazon.
Go ahead.
Let me go ahead.
Yes, G. Yes, I told you the price is going up, ladies and
The
gentlemen.
price is going up.
Hey, for
The price
those
is
who
going up.
not watching on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, that's where you can find it. We also make sure you have the link in the description. For those who listen in the audio, Marilyn has her wedding planners up on the screen. You all will get a link for that as well on the description on the feed, so you'll see that as well. But yes, the planners.
Yes. So I actually started out with the planners because I just really wanted to make sure that the planners were going to be designed to be the companion for the brides and the bridal parties, and basically just offering a lot of invaluable guidance and organization through the wedding planning journey. So we wanted to make sure that at least they knew exactly what needed to be done. We wanted to make sure that the bride, knew her responsibilities as well as her bridesmaids. I felt it was really important for the bridesmaids to also be aware of what's going on. So, and also get to know each other. Sometimes you are saying yes to being a part of something that you may not even know what you're getting yourself into. So that's where these wedding planners are going to come in very handy for both the brides and the bridesmaids so that they can ultimately get ready for the bride's big day. But so I started out with the bridal planners, and I just want to make sure that everyone knows about M.Y.A.'s. M.Y.A.'s, of course, is going to be a whole lot of collections. So we're going to do a slight little rebrand. But I do want to say that we started out with M.Y.A.'s with the collection of the athleisure wear. So you can also shop there. Everything is up and running. But M.Y.A.'s Bridal Party Collection, we just want to make sure that everyone knows that it's more than just a brand. We want to make sure that we celebrate a lot of love, a lot of unity, and the beauty of togetherness. That's what we want to be a part of. I love style. I love fashion. So we want to make sure it's our mission to provide an array of items and products that are going to enhance, every aspect of the bride's engagement phase. So we want to make sure that their moment is going to be with unforgettable memories. We want to make sure that, of course, yes, you have Amazon that's there, but you also have my e-commerce website, which will be coming out in a few weeks. I am not going to put the date out there, but it's coming out where you can also shop there as well. You can get everything that you need, not just only for the bride, but for your bridal party as well. Bridesmaids, maids of honor, the mother of the bride, et cetera, et cetera. So we want to make sure that we're taking everything one step at a time, or you can go ahead and get a lot of things. So that's what we have so far in store, but we have so much next year that we're trying to plan to make sure that we have it and we get it together.
This is gonna be like a one-stop shop, basically, right? For everything that you need, the bridal party, right? And just in terms of planning, preparation, in terms of wear, like clothing, right? And different types of gifts. And this is awesome. This is a need. And I think, for someone who is married and for someone who has been to several weddings, and I mean, I'm not a woman. I don't identify as that, but I do know and have many friends who are bridesmaids and are part of the bridal party, and the stress, right? Like the amount of stress that can be part, and it's expensive. Let's just be real. Like, plan and prepare for that. Sometimes you don't even know. Sometimes you're blindsided. Like, yo, I didn't know this was, it costs this much. We need to do this, that, and the third. So to have this present, what you're planning might be providing one of the best things for someone, which is convenience and peace of mind, right? Being able to find a spot where they can get all that stuff without being so stressed out. So that's dope.
Yes, thank you. So we're taking it one step at a time. We're trying to get it as perfect as possible. I do strive for perfection, so we're just starting off little by little, but we want to make sure that at least now we're going to start opening up the e-commerce. My business is starting out as an e-commerce website. A lot of questions have been asked whether or not I'm married. No, there's no ring, so I'm still on the market. So I want to put that out there. Questions have also been asked whether or not I offer wedding service planning. that has been something that I have honestly said no about, but I've actually had a lot of people that have stated that they think I'm a really good planner. So that is something that I may offer later on. But that is not something that we are offering as of right now, but maybe in the future. I'm not going to, put that completely away. But Maya's Bridal Party Collection is going to be starting out as an e-commerce website where you can go ahead and grab a lot of your items starting from there. And then we are going to build on top of that to have different collections that will come out so that we are going to be considered the one-stop shop of you getting everything that you need for you to get prepared and ready for the bride's big day or during that bridal engagement phase. So I
So
do want to clear that up because I know it's been a lot of, wait, what is she doing or what's going on? But that's what it is. That is what it's going to be.
awesome, awesome, awesome. So we'll make sure we have that information out there again. And so I'm curious, what was the now that your own you're CEO of your own business, right? And you're kicking this off. I want to know what the response was like from family members, your parents, and like Marilyn is doing this business for like how what was the response? Is this something you even told your parents? Like, those another thing that we gotta I mean, just keeping it real, right? There's some things, that our parents even know, right? So what has it been like, at least in the preparation and planning and launching behind the scenes with family members? How have they received this thing, adventure?
So, really good question. I've had a lot of mixed reviews. I think for the most part, I know for a fact that they were supportive. Trust me, and they have shown support in so many different ways.
Mm.
So sometimes just posting, sometimes just liking something. Um, as far as them asking lots of questions around the finances, they said, "How are you going to fund this?" They were very, very upfront about that because they said, "Yeah, we don't know how this is going to go, but since you want to get a dose of being an entrepreneur, figure it out."
Mm.
So, in so many words, they didn't say it like that, but they said it like that in order for me to really get the picture that, yeah, I'm really gonna have to figure this out on my own, which is a good thing, because now I'm really, really in the thick of it and I'm not turning back on it. But overall, it's been interesting. Sometimes I feel like I can talk to them. Sometimes I can't because they don't understand. They don't know fully exactly what's going on. So that's why I really heavily depend on a lot of my entrepreneurial friends and in hopes that they're able to really help me through this journey of entrepreneurship. So yes.
What is your what has been the biggest lesson or what have you learned about yourself going through this process?
Ooh, I learned about myself that I can't do everything.
Mm.
I cannot do everything. So I ultimately would have to outsource soon because I don't know everything, to be honest. The financial obligation is huge. So a lot of people have stated, oh, what's the saying that you have to spend money to make money? I think that's what they say.
Yeah.
And that is totally true. So I have been spending a lot of money making sure that I'm testing a lot of the product. I'm actually wearing one of the waist trainers right now because I'm testing the product. But yeah, there's been a lot of money that's been dished out, a lot of unexpected things that have shown up in which I have to be very, very careful as to how I respond
Mm.
because everybody's looking at you. They're looking at making sure that you have a solution to a problem. So there is no I don't know. And even if it's an I don't know, you better make sure that you know an answer because everybody's looking for some type of answer. So that has also been pretty interesting for me personally. So learning a lot of my finances, making sure that that is together. That is huge for me because I'm funding this
Yeah.
on
No,
my own.
this is you. This is all you.
I'm
This is
funding
all
this on
you.
my own. It's all me.
Mm.
So and you have to be disciplined. So that's another thing that I've been taught. So shout out to a lot of my entrepreneurial friends. They said you have to be disciplined. You have to make sure you stick to a schedule. So I've been tightening up is the word that I would state or I would say that I've been tightening up. I've also heard from a lot of entrepreneurial friends that they've stated, fall forward or expedite failure fast. Don't be scared, to make those mistakes. Literally, you're learning every day. Get rid of that fear, get in it, learn from it, and keep it moving. So at first I didn't understand that. And I said, expedite failure, and I didn't think of that to be a bad thing, but they have stated, you know what, make sure you learn from your mistakes. Don't let it happen again, but be in the thick of it. You're always learning something new. That's how you're going to learn. So literally, I'm learning something every single day. I'm making sure that, as soon as I'm done with work, that I'm working on something for the business. So there's always something for me to do. So yes, it's no joke. It is no joke. So I understand now why a lot of people may get a partner in a business. I understand all of it now. I understand that, but that's where I'm at right now. So
you mentioned the idea of failure and failing forward. And I think about our upbringing where we come from a culture where failure is not accepted, right?
not
And so
accepted.
having to kind of relearn that or condition your mind to accept failure as means to growing at the end. I'm curious to know how your cultural upbringing has impacted or not impacted your ability to be able to continue to do what you do as an entrepreneur, as a professional overall.
I actually didn't tell my parents for a while that I was doing the business, to be honest. I was scared that they were either going to talk me out of it. I was scared that they were going to say, "What are you doing?" Well, this doesn't make sense. Or I mean, they will fire off questions and they're just like, what is it that you're doing? Is it making you money? Why is it not making us money? And, all of these questions, like your money is my money. So then where's this money going type of thing.
Yeah.
So I have been taught, like, yeah, you cannot fail at this. You have to figure this out. There is no failing at this at all whatsoever. So the pressure is there, I think, from there. But I think, yeah, I have to relearn that mindset of it's all mental. It's all mental. Make sure that you have yourself together, because it's rough. It's really rough out here. But I cannot go back and tell them it didn't work
Yeah.
or anything. I cannot. So that won't happen. So
That serves as motivation, right? Because it's like, and that was kind of
it is.
not. It's not even, not to make it about me, but I think about it, and for me, in terms of just like, there was no way I can come home empty-handed. In anything that I said I was gonna do, I couldn't come home and be like, "Yo, I didn't do it." Like, I couldn't come. I had to come
Yes.
home with something to show that I accomplished something. You sent me out to the world, and I come home with something to say, "This is what I said I was gonna do." I may not have gotten the result that I aspired, but I came home with something. I didn't fit.
Exactly.
Right. And so that's always been a mentality that continues to like push me and push me forward. So I just, it's interesting to see that kind of also be like, repeated or at least reflected in your experiences as well. All right. So a couple more questions. Well, a couple more fun questions, and I'll wrap it up with my last question. Again, for the culture, for those who are listening or for those who are learning, being from Ghana, we're not gonna get into the jollof wars. We're not doing that this time. Save that for another episode. But I want to know favorite food, right? Like, what are the favorite African food?
Favorite African food. So right now, I mean, everybody likes jollof rice.
Mhm.
Um, uh,
Let's
what is
take
my
jollof.
favorite? There's so
Let's
many.
take jollof out of it. Let's get real. Let's get into the real Ghanaian
Let's
food.
get into the real.
What we into? We back in Ghana. We we're at home. There's no jollof. We eating. What are we eating with the restaurant?
What are we eating? We're actually eating fried yam and the sheto.
Oh, hot stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're getting into that one. We are also, what else is on the menu? Um, I love the fried fish, or
Okay.
like the grilled fish, and the acheke. So
Mm.
that's really good. That's on the menu. And kelawele. I love
Woo!
kelawele.
Hey, yes, G.
I
Yes.
love kelawele.
Mm,
Like that's just
that's it.
hands down,
Mm,
hands down. So yeah,
that's
that's what I'm
it.
snacking on.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Favorite musician, things that you listening. It doesn't gotta be
Ooh.
African, it doesn't gotta be Afro beats, but just in general, favorite type of music, whatever.
So right now, who I'm listening, well, I've always loved, actually right now I'm actually listening to Stoneboy.
Okay.
Stoneboy is on, Kid was on repeat. a few times. I do like Davido. I'm still a Drake fan. I'm still a
Okay.
Drake fan. I love Tim's.
Yes.
Who else? I love Kwabena Kwabena. So if
Okay.
you so he's good, he's good. And
Mhm.
I'm trying to and I like Nicki.
Okay. Are we still
And I
Nicki?
like Cardi.
Okay. I said we still Nicki and Cardi. Hey,
And I love
listen.
Doja
Never.
Cat.
Yeah.
Doja Cat is very and actually I really really like Lizzo.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Beehive person,
Okay.
but I do like Beyonce.
But we respect Beyonce. I
We
know
respect
we respect
Beyonce.
Beyonce. We don't go
We
crazy about it,
respect
but we
her.
respect her. I get it.
Exactly.
I get it. I
Exactly.
get it. My wife Wanda loves Lizzo, so I know Lizzo
I
very
love
well.
Lizzo.
Loves
Yeah.
Lizzo. Love
She
her.
look crazy, but I
Yeah,
like her.
loves her to death. One of her favorites. All right, favorite thing to do, favorite hobby. If you're not working on the business, if you're not, consulting and traveling, if you got a little me time, a little, time for leisure, what's your favorite thing to do?
I love massages. I have been really getting into my massages.
Mm,
So I make it a thing. If I could do it like every 2 weeks, I would. But I
mm,
do like monthly massages and facials. I like the relaxation. It's really therapeutic for me. I can try and get away for 2 hours and just work on myself. So I
ooh.
like that.
Have you been to the ancient bath spot up here in the city? Ooh.
Yes, it was everything. The air, right? Was it the
Yes,
air?
yes, 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 my G.
We
Yes.
have to go back. That was an
That was
experience.
my
That was
girl.
an
Listen. Listen. Hey, Wanda, that was our 5th year anniversary gift for each other, was an experience, right? Because that's one of the things we said we were gonna do more as we continue to age as a couple and just individually, is like create more experiences, right? For each other to share and blah blah blah. So she came up with this idea and was like, yo, let's do this. So I was like, all right, cool. I didn't know what this was. She was just like, I'm not surprised it's gonna be something you I go in there. I'm like, what is this? I'm thinking, okay, massage. No, this was a thing. And I was like, I need to come back. And everybody I talked to, I'm like, you need to go there. It's an experience.
whole experience. I mean, down for just not massages, but I
Bad.
mean, they have different levels of the bath. They got a scrub on the side, and then literally no phones. No
Fantastic.
phones.
It's
You're
peace and quiet.
working on yourself, your mental.
Yeah,
Hands down, love it.
I love
I
it.
would go back every time.
All right. Yeah, this has been fun. This has been fun. So I got my last question. I got my last question for you, and
Okay.
this is the real one. So this would require you to, I mean, I try not to get too deep, but I want this to be something that you could think of for real. So what do you want at the end of the day when it's all said and done with everything that you're doing? I always ask my guests this: think about, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want it to be when it's all said and done? What do you want people to say when you finally sit and like you've put in your best foot forward, and you're like you get to sit down and look back at what you've done? How do you want to look at it?
I want to honestly say that I did it.
Mm,
It wasn't smooth. It was an experience. I was always told by one of my mentors that everything that you do was a choice. It wasn't a bad choice. It wasn't a good choice. A choice was made, and you made the best out of it. So, what I would say is, for one, I am happy that I did it. I didn't have to ask my parents anymore of their approval. I made my own decisions. I can call something my own. I was independent in myself in making those things happen. And not only that, I'm able to really, really learn from it and make money and also teach people too. So whether it's me teaching other people, other individuals, or honestly my own kids, we're going to speak that into existence as well. You
amen.
know, um, amen for that. So
Yeah,
I just want to be able to make sure it's everything that I do is going to become a teachable moment, and you become better than me and
yeah,
what I did.
yeah.
Capitalize on whatever I do here. So I'm learning more and more what my purpose is,
Mhm.
and it's slowly but surely coming into fruition and coming into my own. So I'm almost there, but it's a nice journey to really really grow within myself and the length of what at first I felt like I couldn't do, and I'm like, no, Marilyn, you can do it. You can do it. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. That's what I want people to leave with my legacy. To know that don't give up.
Mhm.
Don't give up.
Yeah. Yay. And that's powerful. And and that's the best way to conclude this show. What I do want to say before we wrap up, um, not only are you doing that, you did that. You get what I'm saying? And I
Thank
mean,
you.
someone who knows you personally, all these years in our friendship, evolve into, brotherhood, sisterhood type of thing. I am very proud of you, very excited for
Thank
you.
you.
And I want you to know that my excitement is genuine, very, very genuine, very enthusiastic, very just I'm very optimistic and just there's so much glee like in everything that you're doing because I know that you're gonna put your best foot forward. I know that you're gonna come correct. We always talk about coming correct, and I know that
Oh,
whatever you put your mind to, you're gonna come correct and make sure that you do it proper. You're gonna put your best foot forward, and it's gonna be the best product possible. And so whenever I see, I say, look, whatever my G put her name on it, best believe I'm retweeting. I'm retweeting.
I
I'm
appreciate it.
reposting it because I know that it's gonna thrive. And so, I want to just continue to tell you to keep going and keep doing your
Thank
thing. We're here
you.
to support you. My Black is transnational, which is why whatever you want to do, whatever way I can continue to be a support system. You got a village behind you. You know that, and so
Thank you. Thank you to both you and Wanda.
yeah.
Always.
Yeah, we're here to support, and so we're very happy, and it's nothing but blessings, and we can gonna continue to keep you in prayer, continue to keep you in love, and know that just the best is yet to come, sis. So just thank you so much for all that you're doing, and thank you so much for jumping on the show, and just talking with me for a long time. I appreciate your time. You're a busy woman. Time is money, G, and like I told you, the price went up. So I'm
The
like,
price
damn,
went up.
listen, I'm about to be in the
Oh,
red
you
messing
said
with you,
rent
G.
is due.
I'm about to be in the red messing with you, G. But but yeah, no. So I thank you so much for jumping on the show. And before we leave, is there any way that people can again contact you if you just want to let us know Instagram, however else on social media or websites? How can people reach you?
Yes. So my personal one is on Instagram. Instagram, Miss Mayor Bear CEO. That is Miss MS underscore Mayor Bear MAREBEAR underscore CEO. That's my personal one. Or of course, if you want to go ahead and click the link, which is M.Y.A.A's Bridal, that will also be linked to my bio as well. You can also follow us on Facebook. We are also on TikTok as far as M.Y.A.A's Bridal. We also have our TikTok shop that's open already. Facebook shop is already up and running. We're also going to be working on Etsy so that we're also up and running there as well. We have our Amazon books already there that's listed. So you can click the link on the bio for both of those. And then we also have some other stuff on which we're also, our platform is on Shopify. So be looking out for our e-commerce website very soon, amongst other things. So we are working really hard. So, and
Yes.
today's 50% off. So better get it while you can.
Go
Happy
ahead and get it.
holidays
Go ahead and get it. Yeah, get it while you can. Happy holidays,
at
y'all.
leisure wear. Yep.
Yes, man. Marilyn Adibu, thank you so much for jumping on the show. It's been a pleasure, an honor, and I cannot wait again to have to catch you on I gotta talk to your assistant to get to you at some point. G. That's when I know, G. That's when I know. So I cannot wait to have that conversation with that person. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for jumping on the show, G.
All right. Thank you.